A cold welcome. The sun gleamed against the towering glass structure of the Pinnacle Hotel, its sleek, modern design standing proudly among the historic buildings surrounding it. Maya Holloway, a black woman in her late 30s, stepped out of the luxury sedan. Her tailored suit was as sharp as her business acumen, and her presence commanded respect. For years, Maya had built her career from the ground up, transforming her small real estate startup into a billion-dollar enterprise. Today, she was supposed to enjoy the fruits of her labor, but the moment her heels clicked on the pavement in front of the hotel, a familiar weight settled on her chest. Her assistant, Alicia Carter, followed behind, carrying their luggage. Alicia, a sharp-minded woman with an impeccable attention to detail, had confirmed the hotel reservation weeks ago. Still, Maya couldn't shake the unease bubbling inside her. The Pinnacle was renowned for catering to the world's elite, and Maya was certainly among them. Yet there was always that lingering question. Would they see her success, or only her skin color? "Everything's set, right?" Maya asked, glancing at Alicia as they approached the entrance. "Absolutely," Alicia replied with a confident smile. "I triple-checked the reservation. You're their VIP guest for the week." Maya smiled back, grateful for Alicia's efficiency. She wasn't just an assistant, she was family. They had been through it all together, from the days when they couldn't even afford an office to now, where Maya was the head of a massive real estate empire. Still, Maya had learned to expect resistance in spaces that didn't often welcome people like her. As they entered the grand lobby, the opulence was undeniable. High ceilings, glittering chandeliers, and soft classical music whispered of old-world luxury. But the eyes that trailed Maya's every step felt anything but welcoming. "Good afternoon," the receptionist greeted them, her tone polite but cold. Her eyes scanned Maya's face, a flicker of something uncomfortable crossing her features. "How may I assist you?" "We have a reservation under Holloway." "Maya Holloway," Alicia stated, stepping up confidently. The receptionist hesitated, her fingers moving over the keyboard with practiced efficiency. "One moment, please," she muttered, her gaze occasionally darting toward Maya. After a few moments, her brows furrowed and her posture stiffened. "I'm not seeing a reservation under that name." Maya felt her stomach drop, though she kept her expression calm. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. The mix-up, the delay, the sudden lack of availability. She had dealt with these veiled prejudices her entire life. But she wasn't the little girl who once shrunk under the weight of those microaggressions anymore. "I confirmed the reservation myself," Alicia said firmly, her tone professional but laced with irritation. "Please check again." The receptionist shifted uncomfortably before picking up the phone, her voice dropping into a whisper as she called over her manager. A few moments later, a tall, silver-haired man in an immaculate suit approached. His expression was practiced, cordial, but guarded. "Good afternoon, I'm Robert Finch, the hotel manager. I understand there's an issue with your reservation." Maya locked eyes with him. She could sense what was coming before he even spoke, the subtle tension in his stance, the hesitance in his smile. "There seems to have been a misunderstanding," he continued, his voice dripping with false politeness. "Unfortunately, we won't be able to accommodate you today. Our suites are fully booked." Alicia's eyes widened in disbelief. "That's impossible. We confirmed this weeks ago. You've got—" Maya raised a hand, silencing her assistant. She didn't need to hear the excuses. She'd been in this position too many times. The mix-up wasn't about overbooking. It was about who she was, what she looked like. Maya's lips curved into a polite smile, though her eyes were icy. "I see," she said calmly, her voice steady. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Finch. I'll make other arrangements." Finch seemed taken aback by her calm response, likely expecting an argument. Instead, Maya turned on her heel and walked out of the hotel, her head held high. Alicia scrambled to follow, her face flushed with anger. "This is outrageous, Maya. You can't just let them get away with this. We should go to the press or call a lawyer or—" Maya stopped in her tracks, taking a deep breath before facing her assistant. "Alicia, I've fought this battle my whole life. You think this is the first time I've been denied something because of my skin color?" Alicia's anger softened into sadness. "But you shouldn't have to keep fighting like this. You're Maya Holloway. You've earned everything." Maya sighed, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. "I know. And that's exactly why I can't fight them on their terms. They want me to react. They want a spectacle, but I won't give them the satisfaction." Alicia nodded, though her frustration was still evident. "So what now?" Maya's eyes flickered with determination. "Now, we regroup. We'll find a new hotel for tonight. And then, I have other plans for the Pinnacle." That evening, Maya sat in a different hotel, much less grand, but just as welcoming. The sting of the Pinnacle's rejection still lingered, but as she looked out over the city skyline, a plan began to form in her mind. She had spent her entire life breaking barriers, proving that she belonged in spaces that others tried to keep her out of. This wouldn't be any different. The Pinnacle had refused to host her, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. Maya Holloway didn't back down. She didn't settle for second best. If they wouldn't accept her as a guest, she'd return as something else entirely. Maya smiled to herself, the spark of a new idea lighting up her mind. "Let's see how they feel when I'm the one signing their paychecks." The plan in motion. The sun peeked through the curtains of Maya's modest hotel room the next morning, casting a soft glow over her. She was up early, her mind whirring with the possibilities of what was to come. The rejection at the Pinnacle still burned in her memory, but instead of dwelling on the insult, she allowed it to fuel her determination. She sat at the small desk in her suite, a cup of coffee in hand, while her laptop screen displayed a spreadsheet of the Pinnacle's assets and ownership structure. Maya was no stranger to the world of business takeovers, and this would be no different. The Pinnacle was a historic hotel, owned by a private investment group who prided themselves on catering to the elite. But the truth behind its prestigious exterior revealed cracks in its foundation. Over the years, the hotel had experienced financial struggles, despite its high-profile reputation. Maya had been quietly researching luxury properties for her own real estate portfolio, and the Pinnacle had come up on her radar long before this incident. Now, what had started as an investment opportunity had turned into something much more personal. Alicia entered the room, her expression still tense from the previous day's events. "You were up early," she said, eyeing the documents spread out across the desk. "Are you really going through with this?" Maya didn't look up from her screen as she replied. "I am. The Pinnacle needs new leadership, and I'm going to give it to them." Alicia crossed her arms, a smirk tugging at her lips. "So you're just going to swoop in and buy the hotel out from under them?" "Not quite," Maya said, finally meeting her assistant's eyes. "It's a little more complicated than that. The Pinnacle is owned by a group of investors, but they've been struggling to maintain profitability for a while now. I've been studying their financials. They've had to cut corners to keep up appearances. They may look like they're thriving on the surface, but their foundation is crumbling. So you're going to buy them out while they're vulnerable?" Maya nodded. "Exactly. I already have the resources. What I need now is a strategy." Alicia leaned against the desk, her frustration from the day before fading into admiration. "You've always got a plan, don't you?" Maya smiled. "I didn't get here by accident." Alicia chuckled softly, shaking her head in disbelief. "I don't know how you do it. After what happened yesterday, I would have wanted to burn that place to the ground." "That's why I'm me," Maya said, her tone gentle but firm. "And that's why I've never let these things break me. I learned a long time ago that lashing out doesn't change anything. But buying the very hotel that refused me, that changes everything." Alicia sat down across from Maya, her eyes gleaming with excitement now. So what's the next step? Maya's fingers danced across the keyboard, pulling up a list of the Pinnacle's current stakeholders. The investment group that owns the Pinnacle has several partners. Most of them are silent investors, but a few have direct control over decision-making. I'm going to make them an offer they can't refuse. Alicia raised an eyebrow. And if they don't take the offer? They will, Maya said confidently. The Pinnacle's financials are more precarious than they let on. A few bad quarters, and they'll have no choice but to sell. But I don't plan on waiting that long. I'll offer them a generous price, more than they could get from anyone else. And when they see how much I'm willing to pay, they'll take the deal. Alicia nodded slowly, absorbing the magnitude of what Maya was about to do. This is huge. Maya smiled. It is, but it's also necessary. The Pinnacle represents everything I've fought against my entire life. Exclusion, prejudice, elitism. I've worked too hard to be shut out of places like that. There was a long pause as Alicia took in the weight of Maya's words. Do you think they'll realize who you are? That you're the same woman they turned away? Maya leaned back in her chair, her eyes narrowing slightly. Oh, they'll know. But by then, it'll be too late. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of negotiations, meetings, and discreet inquiries. Maya moved carefully, ensuring that her interest in the Pinnacle was kept under the radar. She enlisted the help of some trusted advisors and leveraged her extensive network to approach the hotel's investors through intermediaries. It didn't take long for word to spread quietly among the Pinnacle's board members. A potential buyer was interested, someone with deep pockets and a vision for the future of the hotel. They didn't know it was Maya Holloway, and she intended to keep it that way until the deal was sealed. Behind the scenes, Maya's legal team worked tirelessly to draft the acquisition contracts. She reviewed every detail meticulously, ensuring that once she owned the Pinnacle, she would have full control over its operations. No more hidden discrimination. No more exclusive standards designed to exclude people like her. Alicia, meanwhile, managed the day-to-day operations of Maya's real estate empire, keeping things running smoothly while Maya focused on the takeover. But every evening, Alicia would report back with updates, and Maya would brief her on the progress of the deal. They're biting, Maya said one night over dinner in their temporary office. The investors are getting nervous. They're not as confident as they were a few months ago. Good, Alicia replied, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. That manager is going to lose his mind when he finds out who the new owner is. Maya smiled, though her expression remained calm. He'll learn soon enough. 2 weeks later, the final meeting took place. Maya sat at a long mahogany table in a private conference room, flanked by her legal team. Across from her were the investors of the Pinnacle, their faces tense with anticipation. None of them knew her by face, only by reputation. She had been careful to conceal her identity throughout the process, allowing her representatives to handle the preliminary discussions. Now, as the final contracts were laid out on the table, Maya felt a sense of satisfaction swelling inside her. She had played the game, maneuvered through the negotiations with precision, and now it was time for the final move. One of the lead investors, a man named Simon Kane, cleared his throat as he glanced at the contract. Ms. Holloway, I must say, your offer is unexpectedly generous. We weren't sure what to make of it at first, but after reviewing everything, I think we're ready to proceed. Maya nodded, her expression neutral. I'm pleased to hear that, Mr. Kane. I've always believed in making deals that benefit both parties. He gave a tight smile, still uncertain. I do have to ask, though, why the Pinnacle? A hotel like this is, well, it's prestigious, but we've had other buyers express interest in the past and never offer anything like this. Maya folded her hands neatly on the table, her gaze steady. Let's just say the Pinnacle has a personal significance to me. The investors exchanged confused glances, but didn't press further. They had no idea about the encounter Maya had faced at their hotel just weeks before. They didn't know she was the same woman who had been turned away at the front desk, who had walked out of the lobby with her head held high after being told she didn't meet their standards. As the contracts were signed, Maya felt the weight of the moment. The hotel was now hers. Every inch of the Pinnacle belonged to her, and soon, everyone within its walls would know it. When the final signature was placed, Maya stood, extending her hand to Mr. Kane. "Thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to leading the Pinnacle into its next chapter." He shook her hand, still clueless about the true significance of her words. But Maya didn't need him to understand. She had already won. That evening, as Maya sat in her new office at the Pinnacle, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. She had spent years breaking through glass ceilings, shattering expectations, and redefining what success looked like for a black woman in America. This was just another victory in a long line of them. But this one felt different. This one was personal. Tomorrow, she would visit the hotel again, not as a guest, but as its new owner. And she would make sure that everyone, from the staff to the guests, knew that the Pinnacle would no longer be a place that closed its doors to anyone based on the color of their skin. Maya smiled to herself as she leaned back in her chair. This was only the beginning. A new beginning. The next morning, Maya stood in front of the Pinnacle once again. But this time, everything was different. She wasn't here as an unwelcome guest, but as the rightful owner. The towering hotel loomed above her, its polished facade reflecting the morning sun. It had been less than a month since she'd walked away from this very spot, rejected by its so-called standards. But now, the balance of power had shifted entirely. Alicia stood beside her, a grin stretched across her face. "Are you ready for this?" Maya took a deep breath, adjusting her tailored jacket. "I've never been more ready." They stepped through the entrance, and this time, there was no hesitation. The receptionist from their last visit, the one who had stumbled over her words when denying Maya's reservation, was stationed behind the desk again. As Maya and Alicia walked in, the receptionist's face blanched. There was a moment of silence as the young woman processed what she was seeing, but she quickly composed herself, offering a nervous smile. "Good morning, welcome to the Pinnacle. How may I assist you today?" she said, her voice trembling slightly. Maya approached the desk calmly, meeting the woman's eyes with a quiet intensity. "I'm not here for a reservation today," she said smoothly. "I'm here as the new owner." The receptionist's face drained of color entirely. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. She fumbled for a response, her hand shaking as she tried to regain composure. I wasn't aware," she stammered, glancing around as if hoping someone else would intervene. Maya didn't flinch. "I'm sure the rest of the staff will need to be briefed. I suggest you start preparing." Before the receptionist could respond, Maya turned and walked away, heading toward the elevators with Alicia at her side. As they waited for the lift, Alicia couldn't suppress her laughter. "Did you see her face? I think she's going to need a new job after today." Maya smirked but remained focused. "She's just one piece of the puzzle. The real work starts now." The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside. Maya pressed the button for the top floor, where her new office awaited. As the elevator ascended, her mind raced through the changes she planned to implement at the Pinnacle. This was more than just a business acquisition. It was an opportunity to turn a symbol of exclusion into one of inclusion, to redefine luxury and who had access to it. When they reached the top floor, the doors slid open, revealing a wide corridor lined with glass walls and minimalist decor. At the far end of the hall was the corner office, now hers. Maya walked toward it with purpose, Alicia following close behind. Inside the office, the view was nothing short of breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, stretching out into the horizon. The room itself was elegant and understated, with sleek furniture and tasteful artwork adorning the walls. It was a space designed for someone powerful, and now it belonged to her. Maya stood at the window, gazing out over the city she had built her empire in. This was more than just a personal victory. It was a statement to anyone who had ever doubted her, anyone who had tried to push her out of spaces where she rightfully belonged. Alicia walked up beside her, her voice soft but filled with pride. "You did it, Maya. You really did it." Maya's lips curled into a smile, but there was no sense of finality in her expression. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "Now it's time to make some real changes." Over the next few weeks, Maya wasted no time putting her plan into action. The first step was a complete overhaul of the Pinnacle staff policies and guest services. She started by meeting with the hotel's management team, which included the very people who had enforced the discriminatory practices she had experienced. One by one, they filed into the conference room, their expressions varying from confusion to concern. Among them was Robert Finch, the silver-haired manager who had personally denied Maya's reservation weeks earlier. He sat at the head of the table, still oblivious to the fact that the woman he had dismissed was now his boss. Maya entered the room with an air of quiet authority. She didn't need to raise her voice or demand attention. Her presence commanded it. She took her seat at the head of the table, opposite Finch, and scanned the faces of the assembled staff. There were nervous glances, exchanged whispers, but no one dared to speak until she did. "Good morning," Maya began, her tone calm but firm. "As some of you may know, the Pinnacle is now under new ownership. I am Maya Holloway, and I will be overseeing all future operations of this hotel." There was a murmur of acknowledgement, but Finch's eyes remained locked on Maya, a flicker of recognition sparking in his gaze. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, the realization slowly dawning on him. "I've reviewed the current policies and practices here," Maya continued, "and there will be significant changes moving forward. The Pinnacle is a place of luxury, but it will no longer be a place that discriminates against its guests or staff based on race, gender, or background." Finch's mouth opened slightly, as if to protest, but he quickly shut it when Maya's eyes met his. She allowed the silence to stretch for a moment, letting her words sink in. "I expect every member of this team to uphold the values of inclusivity and respect," she said, her voice steady. "We will be retraining staff, implementing new policies, and ensuring that this hotel becomes a welcoming place for all guests. No exceptions." The room was silent, save for the soft shuffling of papers as a few staff members glanced nervously at each other. Finch cleared his throat, finally mustering the courage to speak. "Ms. Holloway, with all due respect, the Pinnacle has always prided itself on maintaining a certain level of exclusivity. Our clientele—" Maya cut him off with a raised hand, her expression unyielding. "Exclusivity is not the same as discrimination, Mr. Finch. If you're concerned that the Pinnacle's reputation will suffer because we're welcoming a more diverse clientele, then you're welcome to find employment elsewhere." Finch's face reddened, but he said nothing more. The rest of the management team sat in stunned silence, unsure of how to respond to this shift in leadership. They had spent years catering to a narrow idea of luxury, one that excluded anyone who didn't fit their preconceived notions of who belonged in their hotel. Now, that was changing, and Maya was making it clear that there was no room for resistance. In the weeks that followed, Maya's influence spread throughout every corner of the Pinnacle. She brought in diversity and inclusion experts to retrain the staff, ensuring that every guest would be treated with the same level of respect and courtesy, regardless of their background. She also made it a point to hire more people of color in leadership positions, breaking the unspoken rule that only a certain type of person could run a luxury hotel. Word began to spread about the changes at the Pinnacle. At first, there was skepticism. Some longtime patrons worried that the hotel's reputation would suffer under new leadership. But as Maya's vision took shape, it became clear that the Pinnacle was not losing its prestige. It was gaining something far more valuable. Guests of all races and backgrounds began to fill the lobby, enjoying the same luxury experience that had once been reserved for a select few. Maya watched from her office window as families, couples, and business travelers passed through the hotel's doors, each one welcomed with the same warmth and professionalism. For Maya, it wasn't just about proving a point. It was about creating a space where everyone could feel like they belonged. The Pinnacle was no longer just a symbol of old-world exclusivity. It was a beacon of progress, a place where anyone could experience the height of luxury, regardless of their race or status. One afternoon, as Maya was reviewing some final reports, Alicia walked into her office, a wide grin on her face. "You're not going to believe this," she said, holding out her phone. Maya raised an eyebrow and took the phone, glancing at the screen. It was a news article, the headline bold and triumphant. "Billionaire Maya Holloway transforms historic hotel into beacon of inclusivity. The Pinnacle's new era." Maya smiled as she read the article, which detailed her takeover of the hotel and the sweeping changes she had implemented. The article praised her for turning the Pinnacle into a place that embraced diversity while maintaining its status as one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. She handed the phone back to Alicia, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. "It's nice to see the press catching up," she said lightly. Alicia laughed. "You did it, Maya. You turned this place around." Maya stood, walking over to the window once again, looking out at the city she loved. "We did it," she corrected. "And this is just the beginning." With the Pinnacle now under her leadership, Maya knew that this victory was more than just personal. It was a step toward a future where no one would have to fight for a place at the table, and she was determined to keep pushing forward, one victory at a time. Building bridges, not walls. Maya's transformation of the Pinnacle was not just a victory for her. It was a testament to her vision of a world where access to opportunity was not limited by background, race, or appearance. As she continued to refine her vision for the hotel, she realized that changing the physical space was only the beginning. The real challenge lay in changing minds, both within the hotel and beyond its gleaming doors. Over the next several months, Maya worked tirelessly to implement more than just policy changes. She began reaching out to local communities, forming partnerships with organizations that promoted diversity and inclusivity in the hospitality industry. Her goal was not just to reshape the Pinnacle, but to turn it into a model for the future of luxury hotels everywhere. One afternoon, Maya sat in her office, reviewing a proposal from a nonprofit organization that provided training for underrepresented youth in hospitality management. She had been working closely with them to create internships and mentorship programs within the Pinnacle, opening the door for young people from disadvantaged backgrounds to gain real-world experience in an industry that had often excluded them. Alicia knocked on the door, stepping inside with a stack of reports in her hands. "You've been in here all day," she said, smiling. "Thought you might need a break." Maya glanced up, her eyes slightly tired but still filled with purpose. "I'm fine. Just trying to finalize this partnership. It's going to be a big step forward for us." Alicia set the reports down on Maya's desk and leaned against the edge of the chair. "You're doing something incredible here, you know that. This place isn't just another hotel anymore. It's becoming a symbol." Maya smiled, though there was a trace of weariness in her expression. "That's the goal. But symbols are only powerful if they inspire real change. I don't just want the Pinnacle to be a place where people of all backgrounds feel welcome. I want it to be a place where people can learn, grow, and thrive." Alicia nodded, her admiration clear. "And you're doing that. Look at all the changes we've made. The new staff, the partnerships with local organizations, the outreach programs. It's all coming together." Maya leaned back in her chair, allowing herself a moment to reflect. The changes she had made were already bearing fruit. Guests from all walks of life were coming to the Pinnacle, and the staff had become a reflection of the diverse world outside its doors. But as proud as she was of what they had accomplished, she knew that the work was far from over. "We've come a long way," Maya said softly, "but there's still so much more to do. We need to make sure that these changes aren't just superficial. I want this to be sustainable, something that lasts long after I'm gone." Alicia's expression softened. "Maya, you've already built something that will last. You've set the foundation. Now, it's just about continuing to build on it." Maya nodded thoughtfully, but her mind was already racing ahead. She had never been content with half measures. Every success was simply another step toward a bigger goal, and she wasn't about to stop now. Later that week, Maya hosted a gathering in one of the hotel's grand ballrooms. It was the first major event since she had taken over, and she had invited community leaders, activists, business owners, and media representatives to celebrate the hotel's new direction. The room was filled with people from all walks of life, something that would have been unthinkable in the Pinnacle's past. As Maya stood at the front of the room, preparing to give her speech, she scanned the crowd. There was a palpable sense of excitement and curiosity in the air. People were eager to see what the future held for the Pinnacle under her leadership. She cleared her throat and smiled warmly as she began to speak. "Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. This is a special moment for me and for the Pinnacle. As many of you know, this hotel has a long and storied history. For years, it was a symbol of exclusivity, of privilege that was accessible to only a select few. But tonight marks the beginning of a new chapter." The room grew silent as Maya's voice resonated through the space. "When I took over the Pinnacle, I knew that I wasn't just buying a hotel. I was inheriting a legacy, one that I knew had to change. It wasn't enough for me to succeed in a space that had excluded people like me for so long. I wanted to transform it into a place where anyone, no matter their background, could experience the same level of luxury and respect." There were nods of agreement throughout the room, and Maya continued, her voice steady and confident. "But change doesn't happen overnight. It requires dedication, vision, and most importantly, action. That's why tonight, I'm proud to announce the launch of the Pinnacle's Community Inclusion Initiative. Through this program, we will be partnering with local organizations to provide training, internships, and career opportunities for underrepresented individuals in the hospitality industry. We're not just opening our doors, we're building bridges." The crowd broke into applause, and Maya smiled, feeling the energy in the room shift. She had always believed that real change came from empowering others, and tonight, she was putting that belief into action. "Our goal is to ensure that the Pinnacle is not only a place of luxury, but a place of opportunity. A place where anyone, regardless of where they come from, can build a career, a future, and a life. This is just the beginning of what we're going to accomplish." As the applause swelled, Maya felt a surge of pride. This was what she had been working toward, not just the acquisition of a hotel, but the creation of a new legacy, one that was rooted in inclusivity, empowerment, and progress. In the weeks following the event, the Pinnacle's Community Inclusion Initiative gained momentum. Applications for the internship program poured in, and Maya's team worked closely with local schools and community organizations to identify candidates who showed potential but had been overlooked by traditional hiring practices. Maya herself took an active role in mentoring some of the interns, eager to share her knowledge and experience with the next generation of leaders. One intern, in particular, caught her attention, a young man named Devin, who had grown up in one of the city's rougher neighborhoods. Despite facing numerous challenges, Devin had managed to put himself through college and had dreams of working in hotel management. His passion for the industry was clear, but he had struggled to find opportunities that would allow him to break into the field. Maya met with Devin personally, impressed by his drive and determination. You remind me of myself when I was starting out, she told him during one of their meetings. I had to fight for every opportunity. But you've got the talent. Now, it's just about making sure the right doors open for you. Devon's eyes lit up with gratitude. I can't thank you enough for this chance, Miss Holloway. No one's ever given me an opportunity like this before. Maya smiled. You earned it, Devon. Now it's up to you to make the most of it. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. I'll be here to help guide you every step of the way. As the months passed, the Pinnacle's transformation became the talk of the industry. Other luxury hotels began to take notice of Maya's success, and some even reached out to her for advice on how to implement similar programs. The hotel's guest list continued to grow, attracting not only high-profile clients, but also travelers who were drawn to its message of inclusivity and empowerment. Confronting the past, Maya Holloway's transformation of the Pinnacle had been a remarkable success, but the deeper she delved into her new role as the owner, the more she realized that her personal journey was far from over. The hotel's rebranding and community initiatives were only the beginning. Behind the shimmering glass walls and luxury interiors lay a complicated history, one that Maya could no longer ignore. One afternoon, as Maya sat in her office reviewing upcoming events, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was from her personal assistant, Alicia, who had been handling some of the legal and historical documentation tied to the hotel's transition. Hey, Maya, you have a minute. There's something I think you need to see. Alicia's voice was serious, almost hesitant, and it piqued Maya's curiosity. Sure, what's up? Maya responded, leaning back in her chair. I've been digging into the Pinnacle's past as part of the archival review we're doing for the rebranding campaign, and I came across something that, well, you should take a look at it yourself. I'm sending the file to your email now. Within moments, Maya's computer pinged with the notification of the incoming document. She clicked it open, and her eyes skimmed through the first few pages. What she saw made her chest tighten. The Pinnacle's history was darker than she had imagined. Originally opened in the early 1900s, the Pinnacle had long been a symbol of exclusivity and opulence. But as Maya read deeper into the historical records, she discovered that the hotel had a troubling past steeped in segregation and exclusionary practices. The hotel had not only refused black guests for decades, but it had also been a site of high society gatherings where discriminatory policies were openly enforced. In its early days, the Pinnacle had served as a bastion of white privilege, maintaining strict rules that barred people of color from even stepping inside its doors. Maya felt a cold knot form in her stomach as she continued reading. The more she uncovered, the more personal it felt. This wasn't just about owning a hotel anymore. This was about reckoning with a legacy of exclusion that stretched far beyond her own experience of being denied a room. She closed the document and stared out of the window for a long moment, the weight of the history sinking in. The transformation she had made so far felt like a surface-level change compared to the deeper wounds left by the hotel's past. There was a soft knock on her office door, and Alicia entered, her face etched with concern. I take it you've read the file. Maya nodded slowly. Yeah, I had no idea it was this bad. Alicia sat down across from her. I didn't either. I mean, we knew there were issues with exclusivity here, but the segregation policies they upheld, well, it's worse than we thought. What do you want to do about it? Maya took a deep breath, her mind already racing through possible responses. She could ignore the history and continue focusing on the future, but that didn't sit right with her. The Pinnacle's transformation wouldn't be complete unless she confronted the past head-on. I don't want to just gloss over this, Maya said firmly. We can't sweep this under the rug. If the Pinnacle is truly going to be a place of inclusivity and change, we have to acknowledge the full extent of its history, even the ugly parts. Alicia nodded in agreement. So, what are you thinking? Maya stood and began pacing, her mind moving faster now. We need to make this public. I'm thinking of hosting a formal event. A symposium, maybe, where we openly address the Pinnacle's history and bring in voices from the community to talk about what this place used to represent and how we can move forward. It won't be enough to just change the hotel's policies. We need to educate people about why these changes are necessary. Alicia smiled, a spark of admiration in her eyes. You really don't back down from anything, do you? Maya paused and looked at her friend. I've had to fight my whole life to get to where I am. I'm not going to let fear or discomfort stop me now. If we're going to build something new, we have to reckon with the past first. In the days that followed, Maya began planning what she called the Pinnacle Legacy Symposium, an event that would openly confront the hotel's racist past and celebrate the progress that had been made. She reached out to historians, activists, and local leaders, inviting them to speak on panels about the history of segregation in the hospitality industry and how it still echoed in society today. Maya also made sure to include voices from the younger generation, people like Devin, the intern who had risen through the ranks at the hotel, and others who represented the change she was striving to create. The announcement of the symposium caused a stir in the media. Some praised Maya for her bold decision to confront the hotel's past, while others criticized her for digging up old wounds. Maya wasn't surprised by the backlash. Change was never easy, and there would always be those who resisted it. But she knew this was the right move. The day of the symposium arrived, and the Pinnacle's grand ballroom was packed with attendees. The crowd was a mix of hotel patrons, community leaders, activists, historians, and journalists. It was a diverse and energetic gathering, and Maya could feel the anticipation in the air. She stood at the podium, looking out at the sea of faces before her. For a moment, the magnitude of the moment hit her. She was standing in a place that had once symbolized exclusion, preparing to address a room filled with people from all walks of life. It was a stark contrast to the hotel's past, and she was proud of how far they had come. Good evening, everyone. Maya began, her voice steady but powerful. Thank you for joining us today. We are here to have a conversation that has been long overdue. The Pinnacle, like so many institutions in this country, has a complicated history. For too long, this hotel was a symbol of exclusion, a place that prided itself on keeping certain people out. It upheld policies that were not just discriminatory. They were actively harmful. There was a murmur of agreement in the crowd, and Maya continued. When I took over the Pinnacle, I knew that I was inheriting more than just a business. I was inheriting a legacy, and I made a promise to myself that I would not shy away from the truth, no matter how difficult it was to confront. Maya paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. Tonight, we are going to confront that truth together. We're going to acknowledge the painful history of this hotel, but we're also going to talk about how we can move forward. The changes we've made at the Pinnacle are not just about luxury or business. They are about justice, inclusion, and progress. The room fell silent as Maya spoke, the weight of her words settling over the audience. We can't undo the past, Maya continued, but we can learn from it, and we can ensure that the future we build is one where everyone has a seat at the table. That's what tonight is about. The audience erupted into applause as Maya finished her speech. She stepped down from the podium, feeling the surge of support from the crowd. This was the beginning of something bigger than her, bigger than the hotel itself. The Pinnacle was becoming a symbol of change, not just in the hospitality industry, but in society as a whole. The symposium was a resounding success, with panel discussions that ranged from the history of segregation in hotels to the importance of diversity in leadership roles. Guests shared their personal stories, reflecting on the impact of exclusion and how it shaped their lives. Devin spoke on one of the panels, sharing his journey from growing up in a low-income neighborhood to working at the Pinnacle under Maya's leadership. I never thought I'd get a chance like this, Devin said during his panel discussion. People like me don't usually get to work in places like the Pinnacle. But Maya saw something in me that no one else did. She gave me a chance, and now I'm here because someone believed in me." The crowd responded with a standing ovation, and Maya washed with pride as Devon held his head high. This was exactly what she had envisioned when she took over the Pinnacle, a place where people were uplifted, not cast aside. After the symposium, Maya walked through the ballroom, receiving congratulations from guests and speakers alike. Alicia found her near the entrance, a proud smile on her face. "That was incredible, Maya," Alicia said. "You've officially turned this place around." Maya smiled, but there was a thoughtful expression in her eyes. "We've made a lot of progress, but the work isn't done yet. There's still more to do." Alicia chuckled. "Of course there is, but take a moment to celebrate this win. Okay, you've earned it." Maya nodded, allowing herself a brief moment of satisfaction. The Pinnacle had once represented everything she had fought against: discrimination, exclusion, and prejudice. Now, under her leadership, it was becoming a beacon of hope, a place where anyone could walk through the doors and know that they belonged. But Maya knew that the fight for change was never over. There would always be new challenges, new obstacles to overcome. And she was ready for them. Because for Maya Holloway, every step forward was a victory. And she was just getting started. Legacy in the making. Months passed since the Pinnacle Legacy Symposium, and Maya Holloway's transformation of the hotel had grown into something far larger than even she had anticipated. The hotel wasn't just a luxury destination anymore. It had become a symbol of progress, a place where inclusivity, opportunity, and equality were as central to its identity as its five-star service. Guests from around the world visited not only for its opulence, but also for what it represented: a breaking of the chains that had once bound it to a discriminatory past. But as the dust settled on the success of the Pinnacle, Maya knew she couldn't rest. There was something more, a deeper mission that had taken root in her heart, a mission to ensure that what she had built would last beyond her leadership and expand far beyond the walls of this one hotel. She was determined to build a legacy that couldn't be undone by a change in ownership or the shifting tides of society. Maya sat in her office, a late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the polished floors. Papers were scattered across her desk: plans for new projects, letters from community leaders, and proposals for future expansions of the Pinnacle brand. But it wasn't the financial success or growth that weighed on her mind. It was the people. The lives she had touched, the doors she had opened, and the generations to come who would benefit from the paths she was creating. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts, and Devon entered, his expression a mix of excitement and nervous energy. Since the symposium, he had risen quickly through the ranks, proving himself as not only a capable manager but a visionary leader in his own right. "Maya," Devon began, hesitating for a moment as if unsure whether to continue. "I know you're busy, but there's something I'd like to discuss." Maya waved him in, offering a welcoming smile. "Of course, Devon. You've earned a seat at this table. What's on your mind?" He sat down across from her, his hands resting on the armrests of the chair, though his fingers fidgeted slightly. "I've been thinking about everything we've accomplished here. The changes we've made, the opportunities we've given people who would have never had a chance in a place like this before. It's been amazing, but I can't help but feel like we could do more." Maya leaned forward, intrigued. "I agree. What are you thinking?" Devon's eyes lit up, and his nervousness seemed to melt away. "I've been thinking about expanding what we're doing here, not just at the Pinnacle, but across the entire hospitality industry. There are other luxury hotels, resorts, and even boutique properties that still follow the same old practices, places that still cater to the elite and exclude people who don't fit their idea of what a guest should look like." Maya nodded, already seeing where he was going with this. "You're thinking about creating a network, A collection of properties that operate under the same values we've established here. Exactly, Devin said, his excitement building. We could take what we've done here and replicate it across the country, maybe even internationally. We could create a new standard for luxury hospitality, one that doesn't just include diversity as a box to check, but makes it the core of the experience. I'm talking about everything from the staff we hire to the guests we welcome, and even the local communities we partner with. Maya smiled, feeling a sense of pride swelling in her chest. She had seen Devin's potential early on, and now here he was, not only fulfilling it but pushing beyond. You're thinking big, Devin. I like that. But this kind of expansion isn't easy. We'd be up against decades, centuries, even, of entrenched traditions and mindsets. I know, Devin admitted. But if anyone can do it, it's you. You've already proved that change is possible. We've proved it together. Maya sat back in her chair, allowing herself a moment to consider the possibilities. Devin was right. The work they had done at the Pinnacle was only the beginning. There were countless other properties where the same barriers still existed, where exclusion was still part of the unspoken policy. If they could bring what they'd accomplished here to other hotels, resorts, and destinations, they could create a global movement that would redefine what luxury meant. You're right, Maya said finally, her eyes locking onto Devin's. We can't stop here. If we're going to make real, lasting change, we have to take this further. Devin grinned, a look of determination settling on his face. So, what's the next step? Maya stood, moving toward the large windows that overlooked the city. The sun was beginning to set, casting the skyline in a warm golden glow. She had come so far, from being turned away at this very hotel to owning it, transforming it, and now planning something even greater. We start by building a team, Maya said, turning back to face Devin. We'll need experts in hospitality, community engagement, finance, and legal, people who are as passionate about this mission as we are. Once we have the right people in place, we'll begin identifying properties that align with our vision. Hotels that are struggling, underperforming, or simply stuck in the past. Devin nodded, taking mental notes as Maya outlined the plan. We'll offer them a chance to be part of something bigger, Maya continued. We'll invest in them, transform them the way we've transformed the Pinnacle. And in return, they'll adopt our principles of inclusivity, diversity, and community engagement. We'll build a new kind of hotel chain, one that sets the standard for luxury in the 21st century. As Maya spoke, the vision became clearer in her mind. This wasn't just about hospitality. It was about creating spaces where everyone felt welcome, where no one was judged by the color of their skin, their background, or their wealth. This was about changing the very fabric of an industry that had for too long been defined by exclusion. Devin stood, his excitement barely contained. I'll start reaching out to potential team members right away. This is going to be huge, Maya. I can feel it. Maya smiled warmly, feeling the spark of inspiration igniting once again. I know it will be. We're not just building a business, Devin. We're building a legacy. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity as Maya and Devin worked tirelessly to bring their vision to life. They assembled a team of passionate and skilled professionals who believed in their mission. Each person they brought on board was more than just an expert in their field. They were people who had faced barriers themselves, who understood what it meant to be excluded, and who were committed to creating spaces of opportunity for others. Together, they began identifying properties that aligned with their vision. Luxury hotels that had potential but were stuck in outdated business models and exclusionary practices. One by one, they approached these properties, offering them a partnership that would not only revitalize their business, but also transform their culture. Maya personally oversaw every negotiation, ensuring that each hotel they brought into the fold embraced the principles she had laid out. And slowly but surely, the network of hotels began to grow. The Pinnacle was no longer a single shining example. it was the first of many. 1 year later, Maya stood at the grand opening of a new property, a luxury resort on the Caribbean coast that had recently joined their network. The resort, once known for its exclusivity and members-only policies, had undergone a complete transformation under Maya's leadership. Now, it was a thriving destination where guests from all walks of life could experience the beauty and luxury of the Caribbean without fear of exclusion or judgment. As she walked through the resort's lush gardens, Maya reflected on how far they had come. From that first moment when she was turned away at the Pinnacle's front desk to now overseeing a growing network of inclusive luxury properties, it felt surreal. But as always, Maya's mind was already focused on the future. There were still more properties to transform, more lives to touch, more barriers to break down. Later that evening, as the sun set over the sparkling ocean, Devon joined Maya on the terrace. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the waves gently lap against the shore. "I never imagined we'd get this far," Devon said quietly. "It's incredible, Maya." Maya smiled softly, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "We're just getting started, Devon. There's still so much more to do." Devon chuckled. "You never stop, do you?" Maya shook her head. "I can't afford to. Every time I think we've made enough progress, I remember there's always someone out there who still needs a door opened for them. We've built something incredible, but now we have to make sure it lasts. We're not just building hotels, we're building a movement." Devon nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. "And we'll keep going. Together." Maya glanced over at him, her eyes filled with pride. "Together," she echoed. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, Maya felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had built something that would outlive her, a legacy that would continue to open doors for generations to come. And for Maya Holloway, that was the greatest victory of all.